So I lately saw Solo, a Star Wars story. First of all, I absolutely loved it, but more about that in another video. I wanted to say that the movie was definitely made by a Star Wars fan, or whoever it was, because of the production issues like Ron Howard, Lord and Miller, John and Lawrence Kasdan, doesn't matter. The thing is that the film is packed of very cool references to other Star Wars media, and they are interesting as hell to watch. And so I have created a video to show all the Easter eggs, appearances, cameos, and references that I saw in Solo: A Star Wars Story. Let's begin. Now let's start with the one that I think most people caught. Han's golden lucky dice that first appeared in A New Hope, but now were in The Last Jedi and finally in Solo. We don't know much about them, but Solo has really focuses much on them. It's sort of his lucky charm, and the camera always sort of focuses on it. Lots of shots focus on it, and the dice become the primary focus of what the shot is showing. The planet that Han begins on and was born on was Corellia. Although we haven't seen much of Corellia until now, it has been mentioned in several places, and always we knew that this is where Han Solo grew up as a kid, and this information was everywhere in all visual encyclopedias and stuff like that. So finally seeing Corellia is a very nice thing, and I have to say it isn't a disappointment. The Solo movie has lots of those little details that make the world of Star Wars breathe and seem like this George Lucas creation with all its inhabitants. And so is one of the Imperial droids patrolling the streets and the speeds. This droid was most unlucky because he was crushed almost immediately. However, I was focusing very deeply on him, and I understood that this is none other but one of those Imperial protocol droids. These droids were first introduced in episode 4, A New Hope, where they served simply as background extras. However, they caught the attention of many fans and other creative people, and they became a very important part in Star Wars. In fact, to a point where one of the lead characters of season 3 of Rebels was a rebel version of an Imperial protocol droid, MP5, who joined the rebellion because he didn't like serving the Empire. In the Imperial facility where Han and Kira hide from Madame Proxima's people, if we listen very closely to the background, we can hear a heroic version of the Imperial March playing. This version of the Imperial March is playing amongst the propaganda posters to join the Empire, and this theme was actually first introduced in Star Wars Rebels in episode Empire Day, where it also played during propaganda and the Imperial celebration, asking people to join the Empire's forces. This heroic music was one of the top things for me in that episode, and I really like that they put it here, sort of uniting the TV shows and the movies with this little song. Working in that facility were Imperial personnel, Death Troopers, and Imperial officers. Twice in the movie, Tobias Beckett says that he has some sort of debt on the planet Glee Anselm. Glee Anselm is the planet of the Nautolan species. Representatives of that species is Jedi Master Kit Fisto. Also, I remember this planet very well from the episode of the Clone Wars Children of the Force. A member of Tobias Beckett's pirate crew is the character named Rio. This character was voiced by the actor slash director or producer, I don't really know much about him, Jon Favreau. But what I do know is that he has this sort of voice for him, as well as the voice for Pre Vizsla in the Clone Wars series. This man is also supposedly rumored to be the one who will direct a new Star Wars live-action TV show. It is also mentioned that Beckett killed Aura Singh. Aura Singh being the deadly assassin who first made a cameo in The Phantom Menace watching the pod race of Anakin Skywalker, however, played a much larger role in the Clone Wars TV show, being one of the main villains of Season 2 and one of the smaller antagonists in one of the Season 3 episodes. In the campfire scene, Rio mentions a very tasty dish that the inhabitants of his planet eat: roasted Minox. The Minox, of course, being the creatures living inside the space slug that attacked the Millennium Falcon and scared the hell out of Leia when she was looking out of its window. Remember those? Yes. Val, the girlfriend or wife of Tobias Beckett, also complains that Han and Chewie were hired for the job instead of someone professional like the bounty hunter Bosk. Bosk being one of the bounty hunters that Darth Vader gathered in Empire Strikes Back on the Executioner Star Destroyer to send those after Han Solo. So it's interesting that the Trandoshan verbally appears in the movie. Going on to the scenes in Dryden Voss's space yacht, in the bar of his space yacht, we see a singer dancing. Near her is a bowl with some exotic little creature that looks like a frog. This is probably a Klatooine paddy frog. The frogs that Jabba kept close to his throne that were one of the famous dishes for him. In the scene where Han confronts Lando in a game of sabacc, in the background of the scene, we can see a character who looks kind of like a lobster. His name is Therm Scissorpunch. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because this was a very big deal. Before Solo's release, I saw thousands of articles around the internet saying the name of a new alien is released and it's Therm Scissorpunch. What a stupid name. What is this character, like Therm Scissorpunch? Seriously? But it's kind of a bit disappointment, but the character really was just a background extra and didn't play any role in the movie. He nearly didn't get any screen time. In fact, this two-headed alien got more screen time than Therm Scissorpunch did. This is just the thing that everybody was making such a big deal out of it, and I'm okay with it. It's just an interesting name. Now this is an obvious one, but in the Millennium Falcon, Tobias Beckett and Chewbacca play the game that is called Dead Jarek. This is of course the same holo chess game that Chewbacca will later play in A New Hope with C-3PO. In the middle of the movie, our crew goes on a heist to steal Covaxium from the Pike Syndicate. The Pikes are an alien race that are basically this criminal organization, sort of in the galaxy, that is like a pirate gang with all those pikes, and it appeared in this movie. However, its first appearance was in the Clone Wars, where it played a major part in season 6 and a smaller part in season 5. And I really like that sort of this background stuff. Those aliens are brought from the Clone Wars into the movies, especially the Pikes, which was, to say the least, an interesting choice. Now this one is an easy one to spot, but in the scene where our crew infiltrates the Pike Syndicate, basically Beckett is wearing the same disguise that Lando would wear in episode 6 when Lando infiltrates Jabba's palace as one of his workers. After the Pike incident, Chewie rescues other Wookiees who were basically being tortured, beaten, and mistreated in this particular area. And now this isn't really an Easter egg, but Wookiees are of course really vulnerable creatures because after Kashyyyk was taken over by the Empire, which was the first of the planets that they took over, basically many Wookiees became slaves to the Empire. Many of them had to build the Death Star and were really mistreated throughout the galaxy. And that's we can see that in Rebels and comics and now here. When I was first reading Star Wars Absolutely Everything You Need to Know book, the weirdest fact for me in the entire book was this little segment here, where it said, the Falcon's computer is made of free droid brains. I felt it was very weird and too sci-fi. However, I have come to accept that fact. And finally, we were given one of the brains that the Falcon had inside it by revealing that the navigation system of the Falcon was basically L3's brain put into it. However, this doesn't quite match up what it says here because it doesn't say that there's an L3. I don't know. But it's a fun fact and maybe they will change it to fit the canon narrative, but I'm fine with it. And it's an interesting fact that L3's brain is now the navigation system of the Falcon. In the scene where the Star Destroyers and TIE Fighters are pursuing the crew on the Millennium Falcon, when the Star Destroyer is first revealed in this great shot, we can hear the Imperial music. Not the Imperial March, but the one from A New Hope whenever the Death Star was shown, or something Imperial. This little mini John Williams moment, this little score of threatening and scary things that was also used in Rogue One is great, and it's used once again in a perfect place here. And lastly, for part 1, I have to say more about John Williams' beautiful music. So basically, I suspected that in this movie, there's gonna be the TIE Fighter attack theme. This ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. And it was there, and I was really happy. But I remember I was sitting there and I was like, in this moment it would be really nice if they used the asteroid theme from Empire Strikes Back. And despite it not being in that moment, it was still used, and I absolutely loved how those two themes, which most fit for me in the Solo movie, were here.